Look, there comes a moment in every major investigation when you must stop pretending the pieces fit. And in this case, the math simply does not work. We are now over 100 days into the disappearance of Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old violently snatched from her home at midnight. Blood on the floor, a masked predator, national headlines, and over $1 million still sitting entirely untouched. Yet still no viable suspect. No getaway vehicle, no forensic matches, absolutely nothing. The deeper we dig into the file, the more disturbing it gets. At first, nearly every investigator, including me, believed this was directly tied to Savannah Guthrie, the fame, the massive wealth, the high-profile celebrity connection. But now my behavioral analysis suggests we may have been looking in the wrong direction entirely. Welcome back. You and I are stepping back into the shadow of this cold case. I am investigator Charles Brewer, and I spent over 20 years hunting suspects. My 21 years in law enforcement were spent dissecting real crime scenes and deconstructing the criminal minds behind closed doors. We analyze cases from the inside out. This is where we analyze cold evidence from a tactical perspective. No media spin, just raw psychological analysis to show you exactly how detectives work, the street, and the courtroom. Today, we need to talk. The facts today will make people highly uncomfortable, but hard truths are vital to solving any crime. Let me be entirely clear, and I need you to focus on this raw truth. Our goal is not to target a grieving family, nor is it about fueling reckless conspiracies. This is a cold, analytical search for answers in a case that makes less sense after 100 days. If this was truly a high-profile kidnapping aimed at Savannah Guthrie, why is there zero actionable ransom communication? Why leave $1 million totally untouched? And why draft bizarre ransom notes that make absolutely no sense? There is no proof of life, no dialogue, and no tactical extortion plan. When criminals abduct someone for profit, the payout is always their focus. But this offender profile is chaotic and disjointed, suggesting an emotional trigger or a deeply personal grudge hiding right in plain sight. To be clear, as an investigator, I am not pointing fingers or manufacturing cheap conspiracy theories. We are not assigning guilt to Annie Tommaso or any relative without factual basis. No evidence has been made public linking them to Nancy's abduction. Absolutely none. But analyzing potential suspects, evaluating victimology, and dissecting the victim's inner circle is standard detective work. That is exactly how we run high-stakes criminal investigations. If the public, including my colleagues, was entirely comfortable tracing the threat to Savannah Guthrie's celebrity status and fame, then we must also ask the hard questions. Could this threat have originated from inside Nancy's immediate personal circle? I do not mean direct family, but perhaps a trusted friend, a colleague, a hidden business deal, or maybe an outstanding debt. A dangerous shadow hovering near this family whom nobody noticed, because after 100 days, my gut says something is still wrong. A major piece is missing. I believe this case haunts so many across the nation because Nancy Guthrie represents our own mothers, grandmothers, and families. She is the vulnerable loved one we would stop at nothing to protect. When a nightmare like this strikes, we naturally band together to find the truth. We study the file, we look for clues, not for entertainment, but because dialogue triggers crucial memories. They expose hidden details and help us keep maximum pressure on a case that must never be allowed to go cold. And that's precisely why we're analyzing this today. In my years profiling offenders, I have learned that some criminals are truly brilliant. Others are just incredibly lucky. And sometimes detectives completely misjudge the threat they are hunting. Take this case at first glance. The crime scene felt highly cinematic. A masked predator covered head to toe abducting someone at midnight, an elderly target, high-profile ties, and a potential ransom. It looked exactly like a Hollywood kidnapping plot. But when you and I analyze the suspect behavior, the crime fractures highly organized offenders remain calculated while disorganized ones make sloppy emotional mistakes. This chilling case somehow contains both. That is why detectives are still struggling. They have not yet grasped the psychology of this offender. Were we looking at a criminal mastermind or a desperate amateur? Was this predator acting on deep obsession or carrying out orders for someone else? Was it personal or opportunistic? I think you are beginning to notice what I am seeing. The official theory about Savannah does not explain the behavior. It explains the heavy media coverage, but does it explain the actual crime? I seriously doubt it. Now, let us tread carefully because the details here matter. When we build a profile this big, we map every single relationship around the victim. Every single person, including immediate family, close friends, neighbors, and local workers, casual acquaintances and financial associates, exes, former caretakers, everyone. This is not profiling. It is standard police protocol. But here is the detail that haunts me. The perpetrator seemed remarkably comfortable breaching that property. And that familiarity is key. Comfort, confidence, and pacing tell us everything because panicked suspects move differently. This person was cool enough to evade cameras and map the perimeter, moving effortlessly through darkness. That points directly to inside knowledge. Perhaps they knew the neighborhood routine, the daily schedules, or someone directly tied to the household. To be clear, this does not mean the family is directly involved. Predators usually inhabit the outer rings of a target's life. Associates of associates, casual acquaintances, or social ties. Ghosts who drift by, unnoticed, fueled by crushing debt or addiction. And toxic resentment, the dangerous shadows that families fail to see. In my career, I have seen families completely oblivious that a monster has entered their circle. Let us explore a darker angle now. What if money was never the objective? What if cash was secondary, and this kidnapping was driven by pressure, debt, and pure sadistic punishment? Think about it. Some criminals will target the loved ones of their true enemy, not because the victim did anything wrong, but because inflicting psychological trauma is their ultimate objective. Again, this does not point directly to Savannah. It could be anyone in that inner circle, anyone close to Nancy, or her social ties. This is exactly why we map entire social circles in these investigations. The primary victim is rarely the actual target of the grudge. Sometimes an innocent person is just a pathway to pain. I want us to dissect this logically. If a suspect desperately needed quick cash, why snatch an 84-year-old grandmother? Why not break in and grab jewelry? Why not burglarize? The house was full of high-end assets. Why not drain the bank accounts instead of staging a massive national media spectacle? Unless emotion drove it. Unless symbolism mattered, unless the message mattered more than the cash, that changes the psychological profile entirely. Reviewing this case, I am struck by how deeply the public has connected with Nancy Guthrie. And frankly, I get it because Nancy represents something far bigger now. She represents vulnerability, family safety, mothers, and grandmothers. The belief that we should be safe in our homes. When that is shattered, America unites. It is human nature. We debate, we speculate, and we desperately search for clues. We pray because deep down, we still believe justice must prevail. We believe human life has value. This case strikes a nerve because people look at Nancy and see their own mother, their own grandmother, their own family, and they ask the terrifying question, how could anyone do this? How does someone drag an elderly woman into the dark and vanish without a trace? That question haunts us. And it should. Let's analyze the mastermind theory together. Many believe this suspect was highly sophisticated, and there are reasons to think that. Consider this. Over 100 days have passed. No arrest, no suspect, no vehicle, and 0 forensic breakthroughs made public. That is highly unusual. But as an analyst, this is where I urge caution. An unsolved case does not automatically equal a criminal genius. Sometimes it is early confusion at the scene. Sometimes evidence gets delayed, or crucial crime scenes become contaminated. Detectives can chase the wrong theories early on, and sometimes suspects simply get lucky. Sometimes the truth hides in a direction that nobody bothered to examine closely enough. It happens. I wonder if investigators fixated too much on the celebrity connection initially. The media did, and so did the public. Even other analysts did. That tunnel vision may have narrowed their focus early on. Now let us look in the opposite direction. What if this was no mastermind, but a low-level offender? A desperate drug addict, or perhaps a rogue debt collector? An unstable, violent actor. There are key behaviors in this file that do not scream sophistication. The ransom demands lacked structure. The communications lacked consistency. The abduction carried massive risk. The perpetrator actively exposed himself to cameras. There was blood evidence. These are not ideal criminal behaviors. We might be looking at someone reckless, not brilliant, not elite, just highly dangerous. Desperate criminals can still evade capture temporarily, especially if detectives misunderstood the motive from day one. Yet this is the detail that keeps bothering me. Something is missing. One crucial piece of this story has not surfaced publicly. Perhaps the police know far more than we realize. I hope they do. But from our analytical viewpoint, this file feels deeply incomplete. It is as if investigators are still searching for the true psychological trigger of the crime. Without a clear motive, an investigation stalls. And right now, the motive remains completely obscure. Was it ransom? Was it obsession? Was it revenge? Was it fueled by fear? Was it personal? Was it symbolic? We still do not know. Until we understand why Nancy was targeted, finding the culprit remains nearly impossible. So, as you and I close this case today, remember this: Nancy Guthrie deserves better than silence. Her family deserves answers. We all deserve answers. And I am convinced someone out there knows the truth. Perhaps they dismissed it. Perhaps they were afraid or simply ignored the warning signs. They might have thought it trivial, but someone out there knows the truth. To the person who took Nancy Guthrie, you might think time protects you and that the trail has gone cold. You might assume the public has lost hope. But you are wrong. This country has not forgotten Nancy Guthrie, and neither has the world. The chatter continues, the tips keep coming, and we are still searching. What we know psychologically is that people carrying secrets eventually crack under pressure, especially with the world watching. To the Guthrie family, we remain fully dedicated to finding answers. To everyone watching today, keep Nancy's name alive. Keep discussing this case, but do it responsibly. Keep analyzing the evidence critically. The truth matters, because somewhere out there, Nancy's story is still waiting for an ending. And until that day comes, we keep analyzing, we keep hunting, and we never forget. I will see you in the next case file.